Welcome back, Mateo here. Red alert from the Gulf. The strategic choke point of Hormuz has just been locked down. According to urgent intelligence reports, Iran has realized its ambition to completely re-blockade this strait. This is not psychological warfare at the diplomatic table. The ground reality has shifted to a pre-war state. Hormuz is not just a narrow naval corridor. It is the global energy logistics lifeline, shouldering 20% of the world's daily crude oil output. Unilaterally severing this maritime route is a direct shock to the supply chains and economic security of the United States and its NATO allies. The ticking time bomb in the Middle East has officially been triggered. According to the Washington Post, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, or IRGCN, has trampled on basic rules of engagement, known as ROE. They haven't stopped at asymmetrical mine-laying tactics or harassment, but have escalated to kinetic attacks using direct firepower on commercial vessels. The Pentagon confirmed that 2 Indian-flagged oil tankers entered the kill zone. From a military doctrine perspective, this is a blatant strangulation of International Freedom of Navigation Operations, or FONOPS. By weaponizing the energy flow, Tehran is directly holding a gun to the throat of the Western economy. For Washington and U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, the limits of diplomatic deterrence have collapsed, forcing live-fire combat options into a state of readiness. In response to this escalation, the Pentagon immediately activated emergency combat protocols. U.S. Central Command established a retaliatory blockade zone. The entire Fifth Fleet stationed in the Gulf has transitioned to the highest state of combat readiness. Formations of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and guided missile cruisers have activated their vertical launching systems, awaiting orders. The counterattack will not stop in the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf. Washington has issued a global deterrence rule of engagement. Any maritime entity with logistical or financial ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps now becomes a legitimate military target. The most absolute chokepoint net is being cast. On the ground, the risk of kinetic clashes is measured in minutes. Naval combat analysts warn of a fierce close-quarter scenario, lightning-fast swarm tactics by armed IRGC speedboats directly confronting Aegis combat systems and Phalanx close-in weapon systems from U.S. destroyers. At this flashpoint, CENTCOM is not fighting alone. The NATO allied network is establishing an integrated C4 ISR system, sharing real-time satellite intelligence data and reinforcing the naval logistics bridge. The deliberate move to potentially deploy additional carrier strike groups confirms one thing: the situation has escalated far beyond a regional conflict, upgrading into an all-out firepower confrontation between the Western Alliance and Tehran's deterrence axis. The shockwave from the Gulf immediately slammed into global commodity markets. The energy supply chain disruption shock has officially begun. As soon as intelligence confirmed the Hormuz blockade, Brent and WTI crude futures immediately smashed through all technical resistance levels. For American voters, this isn't a distant expeditionary risk, but a direct blow to domestic petrol pumps just ahead of the peak travel season. This energy shock is the detonator for a new inflation cycle, threatening to collapse the fragile macroeconomic recovery of the EU alliance. Strategists in Tehran have accurately targeted the core economic Achilles heel of the West, the tactic of weaponized inflation. Behind the macroeconomic fracture, a financial counterintelligence risk is shaking Washington. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission is urgently investigating an anonymous derivatives trading network worth over $1 billion. The anomaly? The orders were executed with absolute precision, right before the IRGCN units received the order to open fire. Analysts are raising harsh questions. Was there a leak of strategic intelligence reports from the Pentagon flowing straight to Wall Street? What power has turned geopolitical conflict into a tool for hyper-profiteering? If this cash flow is identified as insider trading based on top-secret security data, it will detonate a devastating political crisis, exposing a fatal counterespionage vulnerability in the United States. While Tomahawk cruise missile complexes in the Gulf are loading target coordinates, an unexpected strategic directive was issued from the Oval Office. Contrary to the scenario of a preemptive strike campaign destroying enemy infrastructure, the president delivered a highly calculated de-escalation message, stating the conflict is very close to an end. This is textbook diplomatic brinksmanship. Through the doctrine of coercive diplomacy, Washington maintains a state of maximum military deterrence at sea while simultaneously activating a backchannel. The U.S. National Security Council is actively striving to avoid getting bogged down in an asymmetrical war of attrition in the Middle East, yet still preserving a life-or-death deterrence pressure on the supreme leadership in Tehran. That backchannel leads straight to Islamabad. The Western intelligence community is focusing on the Pakistani capital, where a security negotiation framework is urgently being established. Choosing Islamabad as a mediating corridor is no coincidence. With its core geopolitical position and an intelligence network maintaining connections with both Washington and Tehran, Pakistan is the only linchpin with enough diplomatic weight to drag the warring parties to the negotiation table. For the Pentagon and the NATO bloc, this round of talks is not just about defusing the kinetic detonator at Hormuz. The ultimate strategic end state is to re-establish a new regional security architecture, completely neutralizing the capability to weaponize energy flows from Iran and its proxy forces. Ladies and gentlemen, we are standing at a fault line of geopolitical history. The worst-case scenario will push the global energy logistics system into a state of paralysis if the Hormuz chokepoint remains locked down. Conversely, a fragile negotiation roadmap is being established. But through the lens of ground reality, we must discard illusions. Does the leadership in Tehran truly want a diplomatic exit, or is the Islamabad chess match merely a deception operation? It is highly probable that this is just a tactical fallback for the IRGC to buy time to reinforce their coastal anti-access and area denial network, redeploy stealth anti-ship missile batteries, and prepare for a high-intensity conflict. Control of this vital choke point will be decided by deterrence, firepower, and intelligence maneuvers. From an operational perspective, what is your assessment? Should CENTCOM launch a decapitation strike campaign using air power to neutralize the enemy's entire command and control network and speedboat fleet? Or gamble energy security on the negotiation table in Islamabad? Leave your strategic assessment in the comments below. I am Mateo. Our information warfare team will remain on constant standby, closely tracking force displacement movements to bring you the earliest intelligence reports. Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. Goodbye, and see you on the next front line.